Alright, this is the 5th time I've tried making this video. Every time I go to do it, there's been some interruption. So hopefully I make it through the whole thing this time. I'm going to be talking about the production behind Madness today. People are curious about some of the sounds, the chord progression, kind of how Leah and I developed the song. So she had essentially had written a rough chord progression. She had written the first verse and the chorus. She had the lyrics done and the melody done. And I took it, rewrote the chord progression to make it sound a little more modern and give it more of a dancey vibe, kind of a tropical house chord progression. And then we worked on the second verse together. And so the first thing I worked on was, once I had figured out the chord progression, was this sound here, which is this kind of tropical nylon guitar type sound. This. And I threw a vocal transformer on it because initially it sounded like this, and it was almost too crisp and too clean, and I like to distort sounds, any samples or vocals or even MIDI instruments, to kind of give it it was a really bassy, there was a lot of movement to it. It was kind of, it almost wasn't perfect, which is what I liked about it. So the song is in C, and the chord progression is literally F, G, A minor, C, back to G, which is a really popular kind of variant of chord progressions over the past 2 years. And that just kind of was what really worked with the song, and that's what matched the melody better than what she had originally. So after I wrote this kind of walking this walking pluck line, I just kept building around that based on those chords. So there's the sub bass here. Let me just kind of break this down by lead instrument, bass, drums. This is how I organize all my projects. I have my lead vocals, my lead instruments, my bass, my drums, my percussion fills, and then effects, which is going to be all my impact sounds and my really heavy sub impacts, or my risers. That all falls under effects there. So we just have that sound. It's the cool thing that I think that makes this song work, and what makes a lot of pop music work, is the simplicity behind it, but also what there's subtle complexities that make it really interesting. So it's a really simple song. There's literally a lead instrument, a bass, and drums right there. That's it, and then the vocals on top. And those vocals are super simple. Here, I'll just solo those. Never think about what could have been. Let me show you kind of what my vocal tracks setup look like. A tiny bit of pitch correction, a de-esser, channel, compressor, flanger, space, design, reverb, which is my favorite reverb to use, and it's a really small reverb. It's pretty tight. It's nothing crazy. It's just, and then let me pull up the EQ real quick. It's nothing really crazy. It's just really crisp and really clean. Never think about what could. Anyway, so those vocals sit on top really nicely. And then as we get to the pre-chorus, it's the same chord progression. I just added a little bit more layering as far as we threw in these plucks and this harmony. It's a third above the progression. It's just kind of following the roots, just a third above. Which is that. I threw a tremolo on it. Giving it kind of some movement, a little bit of glide, a little bit anticipation building up to the drop. Oh, and then, so this sound right here, that is based off of this, which I use, I found this sample, I chopped it up and edited it and kind of distorted it like I did, well, like I just showed you. And this is actually a guitar. It just really messed up, essentially. So that's kind of that signature intro sound that you hear. It's really atmospheric and kind of creates a really soft environment. that leads into all of that. So then I just bring that back subtly. So then we come into the drop, which is kind of the big, kind of the bulk of the song. Actually mute everything else and showcase just the bass and drums. So I just essentially took out kind of that lead, doo 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 doo, which is this right here, this sound. Oh, just kidding. That sound. So that's kind of the main hook, the main line. And that was actually also a sample that I chopped up and edited and distorted. And then I took 6 more instruments and panned them, and so I used, I think, Serum for every single one. Oh no, I used a sculpture synth there. Serum, Serum, Serum. And I created this, all of these sounds, and it's super sidechained. Every single one of these is sidechained to the kick, which gives it that really kind of push and drag feel. It's a little bit syncopated. It's kind of really typical cliche stuff, but it's such a great melody that it just really shines in the mix. So aside from that main kind of hook, which I wrote at 2 o'clock in the morning, everyone was just kind of having a party, everyone was drunk and having fun, and I just really wanted to get this done. I think I was like this was like right before I was going to Hawaii or something, and I didn't have a lot of time to work on it, so I wanted to just get a bunch of it done. So I just sat down for like an hour, and this is when I kind of wrote this drop, and it was like, okay, this is really cool. I asked Leah to listen to it, and she was like, this is amazing, and we just kind of built it from there. So it was kind of this idea with this chord progression, these trumpets and those drums kind of sounded like this. It feels like that. Ooh, everything just glitched out on me. So anyway, that's that sound. I don't know if there's anything else that I should break down in there. This bass, this kind of lead bass, in addition to the sub bass, I threw in this really tight reverb sound. So this is what this sounds like, just the bass itself. It's really, really boring. But lately I've been messing around with putting reverb on like everything and messing with how the reverb is perceived. It's different than what you would usually reverb with a long, beautiful tail, like a hall reverb. I think, what did I do? Yeah, it's just a presetted reverb here, just really tight, really small, and I actually pulled out all of the dry, and it's all just reverb. But it's so tight that it sounds like a whole new sound with this. And it's super distorted and super, it's just super distorted, but in the mix it sounds really, it adds a lot of dynamic to it. It's subtle though. Logic keeps overloading. I do want to get into doing more of these tutorial videos and kind of diving into me as a producer and what I'm doing production-wise. So this video is kind of a trial run to that. There's kind of some technical issues and I'm not sure how great it's going to come out. But just know that I'm going to be working on it and try to make them better. Oftentimes I single out a lot of sounds. So if I like one frequency band from one instrument, I'll literally take my low end and my high end and crush it in and just take that one frequency. And that gives me a lot of space to play with a lot of different sounds. So then we have another drop, or another verse, another pre-chorus, another drop, and then we go into the bridge, which is just Leah's vocals chopped up. I essentially did the same thing that I've been doing through the entire song, and I just took the chorus that she sings, and I kind of did just weird stuff. Like that is just using, like I said before, vocal transformer and cutting the mix to about 50%, down an octave and then messing with the formant. And then lots of EQ, lots of space design, bussing different reverbs. So that's kind of what this is. I chopped this up so it gives it, and chopped it and panned it. Stuff like that. What else is this? Anyway, Logic keeps freaking out. I'll fix that for the next video. So yeah, that's kind of what that is. It's literally just a bunch of chopped up vocals that I cut from her takes when she was tracking it. And then we go into another drop, which is everything you've heard before, except I added a synth. What did I add here? Oh yeah, I added this guy. Added that, which is just following kind of a new melodic line of these two. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so that's kind of following the bass line, but it's just a little higher, so it pops a little bit more. It's kind of a new, it's kind of a bright sound. Like within the context of the mix, it sounds a little brighter than everything else. And it's just kind of a little extra something for the ear to make that build so much bigger, because sub-wise, I couldn't add more. I couldn't add a lot. Like I really, from the beginning, from the get-go, I kind of maxed out all my low end just because that kick. Let's listen to the kick real quick. The kicks are pretty intense. The kicks are pretty intense with the sub bass, and so that kind of took out my whole low end. So I couldn't really add anything extra to make that really huge. So that's where I kind of took that mid frequency synth. And it just adds a little nicer stuff. Oh, I also have these things. Super simple stuff, but when tied together, sound really cool, and that adds, it sounds like one instrument. It sounds like it's, when you layer lots of different things and do it right, in my opinion, and you get your frequencies right, it kind of meshes into this, I mean, that's what mixing is. It meshes into a beautiful combination, and things tie together and they sound like one instrument, when in reality it could be 5 different sounds combined together. Then we have that drop, then we go into a halftime section, which I just echoed her vocals again, kind of messed with some chops there, brought back the chorus into the drop, which is this section. Okay, this is getting annoying. I didn't really dive into this as deep as I wanted to, just because I don't have a lot of time, and Logic is kind of funky right now, just because I'm running so many different things to record this, which I'll deal with. But then the outro is literally just the drums and this sound that we talked about. It's kind of bringing back the intro. It kind of ties it all together, but it keeps the feeling and the excitement from this. And then I added this. It's really subtle. Let me know if, I'm actually really curious if anyone heard that. It's really subtle in the mix. Dang it. Anyway, this sound is just so, it was really pretty to me, and I just thought it was a cool sound. Let me know if you heard that. Like, what did you notice that was really subtle that you heard in it, and let me know if you caught on to those things. So I'm kind of curious who heard what and how you perceive different sounds, and just what your thoughts are overall of the song and the production of the song and the vocals in the mix. And then it ends, and that's it. I took back the rhythm, like I talked about, of the verse and put it into the outro. And I don't know, it just kind of ties it up really nicely and gives it a little bit of time to breathe before it ends, and kind of just ends. And it's kind of like an exhale to the entire madness. Like this, it's just like, okay, all right, this has been crazy. And then it's just like, and you're just done. And it doesn't leave you, it's kind of a nice conclusion, which we talked about. We weren't really sure if we wanted it to conclude or not, but we did, and I think it works. I think it all really works well together, and I'm really, really happy with this production. I'm really happy with Leah's performance and her lyrics, and I'm really glad that we were able to mesh our two very different creative styles into one, and I feel like that's what makes this special. I feel like that's what makes music special and art special, is when you take two totally different views of something. We have our similarities, of course, but we both have very different artistic drives. We both have very different work paths of how we do things and how we write. And when you put that together, it's amazing what can happen. And this song is one of a kind because it was, if I had just done the entire thing, it would have been totally different. If she had just done the entire thing, it would have totally been different. So collaborating right now is like so important to me. I'm really trying to collaborate as much as possible, and I'm just learning so much. And this song, I feel like, was just the beginning of that. Like I said, I really want to get kind of into this more structural analysis of music. I really love doing this myself, and I figured why not share it with others as well. So let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next video.